How
Oh,
are you today?
good. Oh my gosh, I've been watching all day and I'm just like so excited for my turn and here it is and yeah.
Yay. Thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for doing this. Like it's
Oh,
so exciting to still have Lambtown, but I have so enjoyed seeing the other vendors because when I am a vendor,
right?
I'm so exhausted. I don't get to
Yeah.
talk to anybody, and I'm so
I,
inundated by people in my booth. Like,
yeah,
I don't know anybody that's there. And so I
I
feel
know.
so excited to, like, oh, wow, that's such a cool company, or just all those things. So
Yeah.
I've loved it.
I know it's fun. It's like it's so great to kind of be able to, see everybody, and spotlight everybody and just kind of do it in bite-sized bits so that everybody gets to know each other. It
Yeah.
is. It's really special. Curious saying agreed. It can be hard to visit the vendors who aren't right next door. It's
Yeah.
true. I mean, the fact that we have two buildings at Lambtown is great as a shopper. But if you're a vendor and you want to go and like cruise around and say hi to your friends in the other building, it doesn't happen.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if you're vending alone, like
yeah,
your booth is empty if you leave. If
right.
you're, even if you're
Yeah,
vending with a partner, like,
yeah.
you are lucky if you get to get lunch and a bathroom break. Like
I
it's
know.
yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, welcome to your spotlight here at virtual Lambtown. And
Yeah.
why
I'll go
don't you tell us
ahead.
a little bit about your business and how you got started?
Yeah.
What you
Okay.
do.
I do have some screen sharing to do. I'll give you
Great. Do you
sort
want
of
to do that first? Okay, then
no,
here's
I
what I'm
think
going
I'll
to.
do a simple intro and then I'll kind of give you guys like a virtual mill tour. So yeah, my name is Markale McWilliams. I started Valley Oak Wool Mill almost exactly 3 years ago. It'll be 3 years next month. But I've been doing this for 11 years. I started working at the mill when it was YOLO Wool Mill. And that mill was started, I don't know, like 30 years ago or something. But yeah, I learned everything on the job and it's hard work. But just by staying there so long, it just, slowly you just pick up the next machine or just more and more tasks. And I just learned everything on the job. And that owner was declining in health more and more so over the years. So I just naturally absorbed more responsibility and just kind of realized at a certain point that like I had this opportunity in my lap um, to someday take over the mill. It didn't quite happen that smoothly. Her mill actually did fully close down, and then I did not expect to get this mill at all, but it just kind of opened up the doors for me to be able to reopen that mill after it had only been shut down for about 6 months or so. So that was really cool because it was the machinery I knew best
Mhm.
and also just such a familiar space to me. So it was really cool how that kind of worked out.
Yeah.
So I will go ahead. Let's try screen sharing. Is that working?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, cool. So there is a picture of the outside of the mill. You can't see the mill in that photo necessarily because I'm facing the tree. The mill is behind me in this photo, but just simple, Valley Oak Wool and Fiber Mill. I'm going to navigate this. Okay, is that working?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm currently scouring in 2 tubs. I did adjust how scouring is done. It used to be done a different way at this mill, but I'm really happy with this because I'm able to recycle the water. I kind of had this moment where I freaked out about how much water I was using, and I really like this system. It was more labor intensive for a little while, but then I just kind of like rigged this up and yeah, so like the water first goes into the top tub and drains into the bottom tub before being drained out. So I'm currently scouring all of it in this method, and it actually works better than the previous method of sort of using like a refurbished washing machine sort of a thing. So that was good. If the fiber, depending on the breed, it might need to be sent through an opener or a picker, it's called. So yeah, this is the picker, and if the fiber is naturally a little bit clumpy or just a very strong fiber like Wensleydale is very long and strong, I need to pass it through an opener, otherwise it will jam up the next machine. So that's really handy to have. Some people want me to simply just wash and pick their wool. I only get maybe like 1 order a year for that, but I can do it. Next is the card. And so it's hard to get a nice photo of the card because it's like 40 feet long, I don't know, 7 feet tall or something. Like in the tallest points, it's very tall. And so, yeah, this is just kind of a one segment of the card. And so the fiber is going through the machines, and there's a series of teeth that are more open and bigger in the front, and they get finer and finer as the wool goes through. I explain the card as like a brush, not a comb. I have a pin drafter, which actually is a comb system, but this is more like a brush, and it organizes the fiber. And this is actually in the second pass through the second segment of the card, and you can really see how different the fiber is from, say, the fiber on the rack here. It's still clumpy, but fairly open. It's not the same fiber, but you get the idea of what it's like as it travels through the card. When it comes off the card, this is a product called Sliver. A lot of people call it roving. It's basically the same thing. But the products that come off the card are Sliver, batting. My bats currently are 6 feet by 6 feet. And square, and also I can do cloud, which is good as stuffing wool. Yeah, so roving or sliver, batting, and cloud come off of the card. If your order is going to be turned into yarn, it needs to go through the pin drafter. I'll turn off my phone's noises. Okay, so the pin drafter is the combing process. If you can see my mouse, I'm pointing to the area where the combs exist. The fiber is in that box there, and it gets gently pulled up and through the machine, and is actually, so the pin drafter, if you're familiar with drafting, that's basically thinning the roving down and combing it at the same time. And I actually control the thickness of the size of the yarn that the person wants at this stage. Some mills don't do it that way. They just make one roving, and they're able to have a lot more control than I am about making any type of yarn off of that one type of roving. But I actually have to control the thickness of the roving here at the pin drafter. And yeah, pin drafted roving, this is an example of pin drafted roving. It looks almost exactly the same as the sliver, but it is, combed, and the fibers are a little bit more parallel with one another. And hand spinners, I'm not experienced enough to know the difference between sliver and pin drafted roving, but there's definitely customers that I have that are like, oh yes, I definitely want this pin drafted. And it's just, well, it's less fiber to work with in your hands, and two, the fibers are just a little bit more parallel with one another, so you'll probably have an easier time drafting it. And it would also, like my yarns that I make are a semi worsted yarn, so that extra step in preparation gives you less of a woolen style or a lofty yarn that you're hand spinning. So after it has gone through the pin drafter 2 times, it's ready to spin. I don't have this is the only photo I have of my spinning machine, but the fiber is placed behind this machine, and it's gently pulled through the machine, and it's also drafted down even more at this phase. So I do have to do a little bit of math if somebody wants a specific yardage type, like if I want 1,200 yards per pound, I do have to do some math to make sure that I'm making the roving the right weight so that their yarn is the right weight that they had ordered. So yeah, I send it through my roving frame, which it's a low twist prep or style of spinning. It's just what I have. I would like a frame that gives me more control. I have figured out a lot of new things with this machine that I didn't know even when I was an employee there. So I do have a little bit more control than I did as an employee, but there's still a lot that I'm not able to do for people, unfortunately, just because of the restrictions that I have with this machine. But I'm able to do a lot. Hand knitters really like the yarn that I make off of this, and machine knitters not so much. I think it's kind of, I think they're looking for something a little bit finer than I'm able to produce. Weavers like this. I did have a customer that was making weaving yarn for out of Navajo churro, and I wasn't able to put enough twist into the yarn using this machine. So it just, you know, some people love it. Some people it's not quite, I can't quite make the product that people have in mind. But I'm able to, you know, do a lot for a lot of people. So I'm happy with that. So off of here, it makes a single ply yarn. This is yarn on the different bobbins, and it's a single strand at this point. Some people want their yarn that way. Some people want it plied together in 2 or 3 different strands, and that happens here at the plying frame. So most of what I do is a 2-ply. Rarely do I do a 3-ply, but I'm able to do it as long as it's not too fat. See, I'm either I can't do too thin, and I also can't do too fat. I can, basically what I do for people is mostly like a DK, light worsted, 2-ply, that type of yarn is most of what I'm doing. I have a little bit more flexibility. If it's a single ply, I can do a fingering single ply, or even something relatively thick as a single ply as well. But yeah, so it gets plied here on the plying frame. And then after that, it's still on a bobbin, and I need, oh, there's the plied yarn on a bobbin. So I need to take it off of the bobbin, and I use a skein winder. So all those bobbins are placed behind the frame, and I hook up all those different strands and turn it on, and it can move really fast and skein off all those different individual skeins. I do. I used to twist each skein individually, and I don't do that anymore because it would be. It would take me an entire day to skein a larger order, and I just don't have that time anymore. So I've been bundling 5 skeins together and twisting up 5 skeins individually at this point. So yeah, here's kind of a nice spectrum of natural colors that I did for a winery in Napa. They use their sheep between the vines, and they sell this yarn in their tasting room. And they have a really nice spread of natural colors, and they really like me to play with the different types of yarn. So you've got your barber pole type of yarn, and you've also got more of a blended, sort of heathered, I think that's called a marl, of blending of the different colors before it's spun. So that's blending the roving at a color, 2 colors together and roving, as opposed to just single color strands twisted together for your barber pole. And I do maintain this machinery myself. I obviously need to have help and assistance with this, you know, more and more. Just, yeah, there's things that happen to them that I don't know how to fix, and so I have to start asking questions and getting the right people in there to help me, you know, fix the different issues that come up with these machines. My oldest machine is the plying frame, this guy. She is 80 years old this year. 1940 is when she was made. My newest machine, I think it's my pin drafter. I think that one's from the 60s. So, but yeah, they're old, and they each have their own, you know, characteristics, and you get to know them, and, you know, you just, I always have to, you know, kick that belt back on or whatever, you know, not necessarily that, but, you know, you just learn what typically tends to happen with different fibers with these machines, and it's part of the character. You know, you learn to love them and sort of have a love-hate relationship with some of them, but more and more, you know, I'm getting better about having the machines work for me instead of I'm constantly working to keep the machines running. That's definitely on my list of goals for improvement. But yeah, I do have a local guy that's willing to help me when he's available, a couple local people. And I also have a friendship with someone with a mill out of state that I can text him pictures, and he'll help me with anything that I don't know or can't figure out, or just help me to get ideas for how to fix the stuff. And yeah, I made your yarn. I do have an employee now. I hired somebody actually. I was in the process of hiring her right when all the shutdown stuff happened. So it's kind of neat that still worked out for me. I didn't slow down at all. I was like, well, I'm more socially distant here than if I stayed at home with my parents. So I didn't stop going to work. And then I was able to hire somebody, which was really awesome. Oh my gosh, I was experiencing quite a bit of burnout last winter. It was really hard just to keep myself motivated and keep that drive to want to do this, because it's really overwhelming sometimes. It's just too much. It's too much. And it's been too long. I should have hired somebody probably easily within the first year of business. For sure, I should have done it last year, but I didn't know how. I thought I couldn't. I thought I wasn't making enough money or whatever, but no, I almost waited too long to hire somebody, but it worked out, and it's really awesome having her help me. I have her do the washing and the plying. And yeah, I'm able to move orders a lot quicker than it was just me. And so, yeah, I do have these yarns for sale. This is single ply Shetland. And yeah, it's got a beautiful range of different colors. And that is just, I wanted to show that photo before I left, because I'll talk about it now, but that's some color work that actually, I have sort of like a pen friend of sorts, at Green Mountain Spinnery. So she bought some of this yarn and, knit a sweater with it. So anyway, wonderful. That is, let's see here. How do I get back? Stop share. Cool.
Yay, that was so wonderful. So there are some questions before we move too far. If people want to come to a mill tour, how does that work?
Good question. I was trying to do mill tours like once a month, twice a month. I think I probably could get back into doing that now. Send me a message. It's hard because it's like, I don't want to do a tour for just one or two people, but that's like a nice small little number to keep things appropriate for the times. So send me a message. I don't know. I'll figure out something to do. Maybe like a weekend of like smaller tours, like a couple people, over, I don't know. Like maybe a couple people in the morning, a couple people in the midday, a couple people in the afternoon, or something like that.
Yeah. And let's see here. There were a couple other, let's see here. Robin says, I see Pokeberry dyed yarn on your website. Did you do that yourself?
I did. Yes, I've got it right here. It turned out to be my best ever Pokeberry session. Yeah, I don't know, but I'm experimenting with lower temperatures and longer submersion in the dye, and it's really working out well. But yes, I did dye this myself. My friend helped me harvest the berries and get them all off the stems and do all the whole process. But yeah, this I did over dye my Shetland yarn, which is behind me. So the same, you can combine them, like doing your color work stuff. It's the same yarn. This is 100% Shetland, single ply, fingering weight, and 400 yards per skein on that. So
amazing.
It's small batch. I didn't do a whole lot, but yeah, it's there. Yeah.
Were the Pokeberries local to you?
Oh yes, yeah, they grew right here in my yard, and the yarn, the wool came from someone in Chico, which is I think about 80 miles north of me. And yeah, I milled it, and the Pokeberries from right here in my yard. So
that's great.
Super local.
And so two things. One is what fibers do you typically like to process, and then what's your turnaround time to make for yarn?
Good question. Let's see here. Typically at the mill, I do a lot of California red, a lot of Navajo churro, a lot of Wensleydale, which is good to talk about because the long wools are so slippery. At my mill, I need to blend some other type of wool to make that hold together through the machinery. So if you bring me something like Wensleydale, Lincoln, Cotswold, sometimes even Navajo churro, if that undercoat isn't long enough, I just need to have something else in there to have it hold together through the machinery. Alpaca is the same way. Alpaca, llama, mohair, those types of fibers, I need to blend some wool with it in order for it to hold together. My turnaround time, I'm still saying a year, even though I think it's a little bit faster now that I have an employee, but I don't want to tell somebody that and not come through on that. So we'll see if it's quicker. There are other methods of, like, I'm sometimes sending people to a place like Morrow Fleece Works with Sherry, and she will process the roving and then I can spin it. And people are getting their yarn within, like, I think typically about 4 months. If I talk too much about it, they might have to wait a little bit longer if too many people start doing that. But it's kind of a nice option for people that either don't have very much time to wait that long, or if they have a type of wool that doesn't work too great for me at my card. So let's see here. For example, I have a customer that had a merino alpaca blend. I can't handle merino on my card right now. I think there's just a whole bunch of adjustments I'd have to do in order to process the fine wools. But they sent Sherry the fiber and she turned it into roving. It processed beautifully through my pin drafter and spun. I think I did a single ply out of that.
Wow.
But it turned out great. And yeah, so I'm really glad to be able to have that kind of avenue for customers that I normally would have to say no to. So it's really a cool little partnership that we've just kind of stumbled upon. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I was wondering whether or not if that expanded the types of fibers that you could make into yarn by pairing with her. That's really cool. And again, go ahead. I was just going to say it's great that it's still in California.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And yeah, there was, just going to touch on, I don't even like to process baby doll south down. It's too short and springy. But this person, it was a blend. I think there was alpaca and some other type of wool with it. And it turned out because it's so springy, it still was a pretty uneven yarn, but it was cool in the end. It had its own little flavor, which was.
I can imagine, because actually it's so spongy and I bet when worked up, it actually probably filled in, even though it was maybe a little inconsistent. That would be really cool.
Yeah, it looked hand spun, which some people really like. And somebody else has told me the reason why I like your mill so much is because it looks hand spun, even though it's still machine spun.
So unfortunately, we've come to the end of our time, but it was so fabulous to talk to you. And thank you so much for sharing all those pictures of the mill. That, you're getting a lot of interest and, kudos in the comments about it. And so, and people are interested in tours. So I think that would probably be a good thing to set up.
Yeah.
And,
check out, because I've been gearing up, because everybody's talking about newsletters. I don't have a newsletter, but please, if you do follow me on Instagram, I will talk about tours and all that good stuff.
Good. Okay, great. So that's a good option, is to follow you on Instagram.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Oh gosh, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. It was good to see you.
Good to see you.
Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
I'm going to stay and watch everybody.
Oh, good. Yeah.